Hey, 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 Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to another episode of Meaningful Work Podcast, a time I'm always excited to connect with you to really help you align your career with God's will for your life, with your purpose, with the very reason God brought you here to earth in the first place. So today I'm starting a series that I think is probably one of the most needed, and it's called God Wants You to Be Wealthy. God wants you to be wealthy. One of the number one things I see the successful women that I'm blessed to coach, teach, even when I get to speak to you when I'm on the road, is your guilt around either being ambitious, making a lot of money, all those things. And so in this 4-part series, I'm going to deal with all the things, because it's a lot, that keep you from the abundantly above all that God wants for you. Because yes, God wants you to be wealthy. And I'm going to show you proof in the Bible. This is not just a prosperity conversation. It's not that. But I want you to see how God has wired you to live prosperously. So let's start with this. Our foundational Bible verse for this series is Proverbs 15:6. By the way, those of you that anytime I'm teaching you, I'm always going to have slides. So those of you that are joining us via an audio, podcasting source, which is great. If you come and watch the replay or stop and come on over to YouTube, my YouTube channel is nrjnetwork.com. NRJ are my initials, by the way. nrjnetwork.com. Okay. So our foundational Bible verse, Proverbs 15:6. In the house of the righteous, there is much treasure. In the house of the righteous, there is much treasure. So what does that mean? I'm going to peel it back, but I need you to get ready to go after. Listen, if you're ready to go after the abundance that has your name on it, I want you to write in the comments, Nicole, I'm ready to go and get it. I want you to write in the comments. If you're listening to me on some audio source, come on over to social media, find the post for this episode and write Nicole, I'm ready to go and get it. I need you to name it and claim it out of the gate before I even go in teaching you why you are wired for wealth and how, right? So this first episode, I'm calling it Letting Go of Making Money Guilt. Now, again, this is a 4-part. I'm dealing with guilt in the first lesson. And I need to get under this guilt first so that you can get all the other pieces that I'm going to share with you. Now, again, Proverbs 15:6 says, in the house of the righteous, there is much treasure. So here's a definition for righteous. A person morally right or justifiable, virtuous. It's like that virtuous woman that Proverbs 31 talks about, right? Wealth means abundance of valuable material, possessions, or resources, abundant supply. Now, you're also going to hear me say profit interchangeably. And the reason I say profit interchangeably, which means a valuable return or gain, is I wonder if you realize that God gave you gifts and talents so that you gain for Him. It's not just about you gaining, but His gift back to you is that as you gain, as you gain for Him, that He gains for you. Come on, somebody. Right? So to peel back this even more, I said this a minute ago about prosperity. 3 John 1:2 says, Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers. Right? So, in order to walk you through this whole guilt around making money, I'm going to walk you through 3 things, right? 3 ways to embrace financial success. And really, I want you to understand this. 3 ways God wants you to embrace financial success. Listen, if you're a child of the King, why would God not want you to be successful? Think about it. Your mom, your dad, your grandmother, whoever raised you, wasn't their ultimate goal of raising you for you to have a successful life? Why would God not want that when He is our ultimate? He supersedes our parents and then some. Why would God not want that more than even our parents want for us? Have you thought about that? Mm-hmm. So again, I'm going to walk you through these 3. Those of you that know me, you know you better have your pen because I'm already going in. And I dropped my notes, so hold on, let me grab it. And the reason I write these notes, y'all, is because I don't want to miss anything. And I am known to go off on a tangent. So here's the first thing you've got to embrace in order to go after the financial success that you greatly desire is that God gave you the power. He gave you the power. Listen, you don't believe me? Deuteronomy 8:18 says this, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers as it is this day. Again, it says, it is he, God, who gives you the power to get wealth. So it goes all the way back to Abraham, all the way back to Abraham and his first promise to Abraham. I'm not going to talk about this, but go read homework Genesis 12:1. That whole 12th chapter will show you God's promise to Abraham, and we are descendants of Abraham. God made the promise from the beginning, and that promise still lasts to this day. A great example of this is David and Goliath. And I like to use David and Goliath because, listen, so many of us grow up hearing the story of David and Goliath, but many times we don't peel back the layer. So before I read that Bible verse that's there, let me give you the Cliff Note version, those of you that don't know David's story. Okay. So listen, David is, well, let me back up with this. Samuel, who is a prophet, God says to Samuel, listen, the king that is the king right now is, I'm gonna say it in Nicole's language, trifling. He's got to go. I'm gonna show you who the next king is gonna be. And so Samuel says, well, where do I go, Lord? And God says, go to Jesse's house. Jesse is David's dad. So Samuel is obedient and goes to Jesse's house. Jesse brings out his oldest son, his second son, his third son, his fourth son, his fifth son, his sixth son, his seventh son. And each time Samuel's like, nope, that's not him. Nope, 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 nope. And he said, but you have an eighth son. Where is he? David wasn't even concerned about this whole I might be a king thing. He was out tending to the sheep. He was doing his job. Come on, somebody. God honors work. So he brings David in. Jesse calls for his last child to come in. Now, mind you, if David is out there tending to sheep, y'all imagine he's funky, standing in the hot sun. He stinks. Not stinks, he stanks. He's dirty. And the minute he comes in, Samuel feels it in his spirit. And he says, this is him. He anoints David to be king. What does David do in that moment? He goes right back into the field to be a shepherd. Now, I wonder how many of you could know that you're anointed to be king, but go be obedient and go back to the work that you've been summoned to do in that moment. David didn't get full of himself and go, I'm supposed to be king. Kings don't watch sheep. I'm the next king. I don't. But what happened next changes everything. And that's where the Goliath story comes in. So Goliath is someone, and Goliath's story is in Samuel 17. I'm only going to read 32 through 36, right? But literally, no one would fight Goliath. The army wouldn't fight him. The Navy wouldn't fight him. The Marines, nobody. But little 12-year-old David says, oh, I'll fight him. And here's what David says to Saul, the current king. He says, this is 1 Samuel 17, 32 through 36. This is too long for me to write on the screen, but again, you can go read it again later. 1 Samuel 17, 32 through 36. Then David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him, your servant, who will go and fight with this Philistine. Talking about Goliath. And Saul said to David, you're not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. Meaning he's been fighting for a long time since he was little, and you just a little boy. How you gonna go against Goliath? But David says to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it arose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine, again talking about Goliath, will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. The thing I think is so deep about this story about David, and I need you to get this again, God put the power inside of him to do the thing he crafted and created him to do. But it was David's obedience to what he knew he was called to do in that moment. Again, He was already anointed to be king, but he stayed a shepherd. Had he not stayed a shepherd, he would not have learned how to fight a lion or a bear. And when Goliath came, he wouldn't have been equipped to take him down. When I think about other examples of even Michelle Obama, when she was a lawyer and she said this in her book Becoming, and I often reference this. She went to law school, top law schools in the country, was working at a top law firm, and realized that she hated being a lawyer. And she left and started working in nonprofit, and she worked for hospitals, and she did some other things that all those things blended together gave her the tools to be equipped to be a phenomenal first lady. I need you to understand that God gives you the power. The question is, are you going to seek the throne? So if David was so focused on the throne, then he wouldn't have got into the second step here. Oh, let me just read this first. Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Let me say this one last thing before I shift to number 2. It's like my cell phone. My cell phone at night, I have to power it up or it doesn't work. Many of you, the reason why you feel off in your career, your business isn't working, whatever that is for you, is because you are not connected to the power that's in you. You're not clear on what your purpose is. And I'm going to tell you, that's our second step because it does make a difference. It's really to focus on purpose over profit, pursuing purpose over profit. And when you do, let me explain to you, money comes when you focus on doing the right thing for the right reason. Hello, David, being the anointed king and still being a shepherd. With that in mind, Proverbs 28:20 says, a faithful man will abound with blessings, but he who hastens to be rich will not go unpunished. See, David could have hastened and said, listen, I'm king. I'm anointed to be king. I'm not getting ready to go out and watch these sheep. That's beneath me. What if Michelle Obama said, I'm a lawyer. I'm not going to go work as an executive in a nonprofit. That's beneath me. I know even for me, listen, if I dare, this just dropped into my spirit. I was excelling great. My first career was in the entertainment industry when God called me out. The first job I got after that, I made literally $25,000. When in entertainment, I was making high five figures in my 20s, baby. I got shoes. I was buying them, still wear them. I say that because I remember buying those $500 shoes in the 90s. And I was like, because I never bought a shoe that expensive, but I still have those shoes and I still wear them. The point I'm making is this. I realized that I had to go back to learn some things. Me going to get my master's degree in social work taught me so many things. And then God brought me before the speaker of the state of California that began to allow me to see my gift could serve businesses, could serve corporations, could serve colleges, could serve celebrities. And I've served them all around career development. But I would have never seen that had I not been willing to go back and take that $25,000 job. Never forget about it. I love my job. I didn't love my paycheck. Why am I sharing that with you? Because if you're pursuing purpose over profit, when you pursue your purpose, God's gift to you is profit. Now, listen, I call the Bible God's wealth hall of fame because all the people that are obedient to their purpose become wealthy. Here's some examples for those of you that don't believe me. Abraham, who prospered with land and cattle, indicating wealth and influence, which was wealth and influence back in that day. David, who became king and amassed significant wealth and power. Solomon, who asked God for wisdom, and God gave him wisdom, but he also gave him great wealth. Job was considered the wealthiest man on earth. Boaz, and I'm using him as an example because of Ruth. See, Boaz was a wealthy landowner. It was because of Ruth's obedience that she became Boaz's wife. Come on, somebody, right? And then Esther, who was an orphan who became queen and saved her people. So again, those are a few examples, and those are all Old Testament examples. I'm going to give you a New Testament example in a minute. But I need you to understand that the reason I'm showing you these examples is God's greatest desire is that when you are obedient, he's going to bless you. But when you're not obedient, different story. So here's an example of disobedience. Now, you probably have heard the story of the children of Israel. It took them 40 years to make an 11-day trip. They were in the promised land. It took them 40 years to get there. But do you know why it took them so long to get there? Because they couldn't let go of Egypt. They couldn't let go of who, listen, it's like David not letting go of being anointed king and knowing at that moment he needed to be shepherd, knowing his time would come. The children of Israel were opposite. They were so focused on we need to go back to Egypt. We were living great there, and we all out here doing this, and this is not good. But where you're going, sometimes in the middle, it doesn't get easy. Or if you read David's story, you'll read all the things that Saul was trying to kill him after he did Goliath and got all the fanfare. These days, if David had killed Goliath, they would have done a parade and did all the fanfare and interviewed him on the news. And Gail King would have sat down with him and said, "So how did it feel for you to kill Goliath? And what made you think that you could kill Goliath?" Right? That's my Gail King voice. Gail, if you ever listen to this, don't judge me. But I need you to get this, y'all. Sometimes you've got to let go of prestige and title to get to where God is taking you to. Oftentimes, I believe it's a test. Will you pursue purpose or are you going to pursue the paycheck? I have another client who knew that she was called to be a journalist and she was a lawyer as well. And she got an offer to be a partner in a law firm. And she said, I had a decision. I had to choose. Do I go up or do I go out? Well, she went out. And she now is on CNN. She's been on ESPN. I mean, she's hit some pretty big places as a journalist, but she didn't know that was coming. So, my wealthy sister, wealthy brother, in order for you to go after the abundant above all that's there for you, you've got to be willing to pursue purpose over profit, and profit always comes. God's gift to you will always be profit. Listen, here's what is said in Deuteronomy about the children of Israel. However, there need be no poor people among you, for in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, he will richly bless you. If only you fully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all these commands I'm giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you as he has promised, and you will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. That's Deuteronomy 15:4-6. Again, it says you will lend and not borrow. You'll rule over many, none will rule over you. It's telling you that God wants you to be abundantly above all. Hello, somebody, right? But again, it comes in you pursuing purpose. So for those of you saying, Nicole, I'm not clear what my purpose is, I'm confused. I want you to go back and watch our Cracking the Code, Secrets to Discovering Meaning in Your Work. That 3-part series that walks you through how to get clear on what your purpose is. So again, it's Cracking the Code. That's the series here in the Meaningful Work podcast. Okay, I think that was episode 2, 3, and 4, I think, somewhere at the beginning. All right. So here's the reason I'm saying that. Let me read another Bible verse to you, okay? Because your purpose is the key. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling, what are the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints. Ephesians 1:18. This is Paul talking to the church at Ephesus. But I need you to get this, that you may know what is the hope of his calling. The hope of his calling is your purpose. What are the riches of the glory of his inheritance? I talked about inheritance, I believe, in the Crack the Code series as well. That might have been in our first episode of the podcast. I need you to understand this. You are an heir to the king as a child of God. His goal is to give you the inheritance, but you've got to do the work, the purpose, the calling that's connected to it. Okay. So to fully understand this, let me go out our third step. So first step was God gave you the power. The 3 ways to embrace financial success is knowing that God gave you the power, pursuing purpose over profit, and profit will come. But then the third one, which I think is my favorite, is you cannot confuse source with resource. See, money is a resource. God is our source. So let me just break this down. You guys know I like definitions, so I looked up source. Definition for source is a point of origin or procurement, a genitive force, a place or person from which you can obtain something useful or valuable, a supplier of something. Okay. A resource is something that can be used to perform some function. So if gas is a source, or let's say electricity, if electricity is a source, then the plug that comes in my house is the resource that I can then plug my cell phone in for it to get power. See, God is a source because who makes gas? Who makes electricity? Who makes water? God. Hello, somebody. But I think so many times we look at God as a resource, not as the source. Money is a resource to do the work. Money's a tool. We'll talk about this more in the next episode. But I need you to understand the difference. Many people look at money as the source, and it's not. Oh, I'm going to break this down so much in next episode. So you've got to shift how you see money. See, everything comes from God. This is Romans 11:36. Everything comes from God. Everything exists by his power, and everything is intended for his glory. So listen, when I'm drinking my water, I'm thinking about the source that was created so I can get water into my house. Come on, somebody. When I'm eating my breakfast, I'm thinking about the farmers that raise the chicken, that lay the eggs, and then sell the eggs to the grocery store that I then go buy them. I'm thinking about the people that create the pots and pans that I use. All of those happen because of the source. You guys, I want you to get this. And every source that is created from its original origin, like even the chair I'm sitting in, God didn't create this chair. He didn't. He gave some man or woman a gift to be an inventor of a chair. And the source they used was wood to create the first chairs. And where did that source come from? God. Are y'all getting this? So I think so many times we're so focused on money, making money, making money, making money. But what difference are you making in this world? How's it gaining for God? How is your role at your job? How is it gaining? Now, of course, God still wants you to buy nice things. I said this in a podcast episode, or actually one of my Facebook Lives, I think a couple of years ago. God does not care if you buy Gucci. He don't care. He don't care if you have a Mercedes, and he doesn't mind it. Just as long as the Mercedes is not your focus, because I got one of those too, and I got some Gucci's too. Not my focus, though. It's a gift that I give myself or my husband gives me, but it's not the focus. It's being in alignment with who God has created me to be is what my focus is. And listen, and when you focus on your purpose, it creates that power. David is our example. So here's another example of using your purpose for good, using your gifts for good, using your money to gain for God. So this is Lydia in the New Testament. So I gave you some Old Testament examples. Here's New Testament example. Lydia. She's in Acts chapter 16. I'm only going to read 2 Bible verses here. I'm going to read 16, 14 through 15 that says, "Now a certain woman named Lydia heard us." This is Paul talking. Paul wrote the book Acts. "She was a seller of purple from the city of," I'm not going to say the name of that city because I will mess it up, "who worshiped God. The Lord opened her heart to heed the things spoken by Paul. And when she and her household were baptized, she begged us, saying, 'If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come to my house and stay.'" Now, a couple of things I want you to see here. It says she was a seller of purple. So she sold things. She was a businesswoman. And then she says, "Come to my house and stay." Now, listen, there were 12 disciples, whether it was 12 of them or 5 of them, however many. The fact that she had a house big enough to accommodate multiple people lets you know that Lydia was balling. That Lydia had money. And what Lydia did was she used her wealth for good. Now, I'm not saying we all got to open our homes up. I'm not saying that. But there are things that God wants to do through you. Listen, every single business was created as an answer. Nike created as an answer. American Express created as an answer. Google created as an answer. I can keep going on and on. Every company. Your role brings that company into fruition. So I always use Apple as an example because I got an Apple, I got an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook. I got it all. I got an Apple Watch, right? So the people that work at Apple bless my life. Their brilliance is a resource for me. Their brilliance allows me to be able to serve you because you're either listening to me through your smartphone if you don't have Apple, or you're watching me on YouTube through some kind of device. Resource. And then the power that comes through your Wi-Fi. Resource. But all those things lead back to an ultimate hub, which is the source. And God is that ultimate hub, the source. And so as you begin to look at what you do with your money, how you spend your money, how you maneuver through life, I want you to look at how you view your money. We're going to dig in this deeper next episode, but let me leave you with this. It's like the Gremlins. Y'all remember Gremlins, the movie? Now, what's interesting is what most people don't think about is the fact that when Gremlins were fed after midnight, and actually I can't remember the cute little stuffed animal's name before he became a gremlin. I think it was Gizmo or something. He became a gremlin. See, what you feed yourself about money is how it produces in your life. And so the goal of this 4-part series is to really look at how you're looking at your money so you can look at how it's producing what it produces in your life, right? Now, I forgot to read this, so I want to read this here. Again, I read this a few minutes ago about the Israelites and how there need be no poor among you. For the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance. Remember, I read that? Here's Tony Evans. Y'all know my favorite. Here's what he says about this. If they were financially obedient, God would guarantee that Israel would lend to and rule nations, but they would never borrow or be ruled by other lands. If they were financially obedient, just like David was financially obedient because he didn't focus on the crown, he focused on what he was called to do. Just like Lydia was financially obedient. She didn't focus on, oh, I got all this stuff and I don't want all these people in my phenomenal house. Let me open my home to you. Like Moses was obedient and said, I know God told me there's a promised land. We cannot quit till we get there. And then when Moses died, Joshua took over. I need you also have a land, an arena that God is calling you to tend to and keep. That arena is where you get to join God's Wealth Hall of Fame if you do the work. Now, listen, there's 3 other parts to this series. Next series, I'm going to talk about challenging money stigmas because a lot of those money stigmas have you stuck and you don't realize it. So I'm going to challenge the money stigmas. So with that said, as I end this one, I'm going to ask you, tell me your greatest takeaway. Was it part 1? God gave you the power. Did you not even realize that God gave you the power to get wealth? Number 2, are you already focused on pursuing purpose over profit? Again, if you don't know what your purpose is, you're stuck on that. Go watch the Cracking the Code series. And number 3, stop confusing your source with a resource. Money is a resource to be used to do work, to live your life, to eat. Listen, if we don't have money, we can't pay our bills, we can't pay our mortgage, we can't eat, we can't pay for our children to go to college, we can't give to causes we care about. I can keep going on and on. It's a resource. We're going to talk about that even deeper as we deal with the next 3 parts of our series. So, number 1, tell me your takeaway for this episode. Number 2, share it and tell people, hey, Nicole's doing a 4-part series on God wants you to be wealthy. Matter of fact, I remember I did a live on this years ago. And somebody said, how are you saying God and wealth in the same sentence? I'm like, have you not read the Bible? Have you not realized that the Bible is God's Wealth Hall of Fame? That's what I call it anyway. So I'll dig more into that. So again, share it, tell the people that they've got to join us and share your takeaways. And I can't wait to pour more into you. All right. So I'll see you for part 2 of this 4-part series next time. All right. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.